Hello and welcome to India Today. I am Sanjay Ponnappa, joined by co-hosts Maruti Acharya and Janani. Both are from different states. We are here to represent the diversity of cinemas in South India. In today's episode, we'll be talking about everything that happened in cinema in South India in 2024. Well, the Max poster in the background is because the last film that we watched and the review which is up on the channel is from the film Max, which stars Kicha Sudeep. So that is there. We are going to be talking about everything that happened in cinema in 2024, starting with the Kannada film industry. Well, personally, since I am from Bangalore, I honestly feel like the last 2 years, 2023 and 24, have been a little on the lower side for the Kannada industry because there hasn't been consistent films by the bigger stars, and the younger ones have not been able to carry it consistently. There, especially if you talk about 2024, there were no Shetties this year. All the big films came at the very end, the last week of October, and since then, all the big films released. Until then, it was all the smaller films which didn't really make the mark. The only film, only there were three films which hit the double digit in terms of box office, which was Yuva with Yuva Rajkumar, his debut, the grandson of Dr. Rajkumar. Other than that, there was Krishnam Pranayasaki by Ganesh and then Bheema by Vijay, Dunia Vijay. But apart from these films, no other film made the mark until, the start of Martin and then onwards. Martin came in Dasara, October 10th to be specific. Again, bad reviews, didn't make as much as it would, but the big star brought in a certain amount of people into the theaters. Again, came Sri Murli, Shivraj Kumar, and all the other films came in later. So, Maruti, let's start with you. What is your perspective since you also stay in Bengaluru and you know the market now since you've been working for a couple of years? What is your take on this?
Every year, take any industry for that matter, there'll be like good movies, like the theatrical movies, 10, where people will storm into theaters. And the other movies based on the talk, people will, it's like it's a day, it's like that Friday and that weekend you get to know what is the fate of that movie. But this year, the movies were good, okay. I really like Bheema. So all these movies, I felt like, considering the quality and the reviews and word of mouth, I thought people will storm into theaters at least once, at least some people. But looking at the response of it, I was really surprised. Not in terms of filmmakers. I usually, when the year is underwhelming for films, right? You talk about filmmakers or the kind of content that release. But I think this year is a very weird year in terms of audience. Even after UI, Bhairati Ranagal, all these movies released also, like I spoke to a lot of Kannadigas personally, and I thought, guys, I'm an outsider. I am telling you these movies are good. Why are you not going to theaters? I don't know. People just, these are all big stars also. Looking at the numbers of UI and Max also, considering the Max, it's a beautiful movie. It really works. It has all of it. But looking at the response of audience, it's really surprising why.
Janani, since you have consumed Kannada cinema over the years, you've seen a lot of films. 2022 was a beautiful year for the industry because there was KGF 2, there was Kantara, which blew up nationwide. But also, along with it, there were a lot of other films, Puneet Rajkumar films, there was Darshan's films. All of these were also keeping the box office running, bringing huge numbers into the theaters and all of it. But then lately, that hasn't been the scene. What is your take on this?
Compared to 2022 and 2023, I personally didn't watch a lot of Kannada films this year, probably because there were very limited release here, one. And then, these big budget films, except for UI and Max, I couldn't see any, and Bhairati Ranagal as well. I couldn't see the other films actually transcending from Karnataka to the other states of India. So that is one thing that actually made a world of difference in Kannada cinema when compared to 2022 to 2024. Probably, I think that bridge will be that gap will be bridged in 2025 with a lot of films lined up. So that is one thing that I actually thought of.
Good point bringing 2025 into the topic, because a lot of bigger stars, namely even Sudeep, has promised to bring at least two films in the year. Yash's
Yeah.
Toxic could be releasing in 2025. It was,
Yes,
scheduled to release in April, but then
April.
evidently it has been delayed. It might release at the very end of the year. A couple of Shivraj Kumar films is also up there. There is also the Shetty films that will
Kantara.
be coming in 2025, which is why or the anticipation for the from the industry, especially for 2025, is high. But then, is it okay to depend on only these people? Will the younger stars come forward? What will happen if that doesn't happen is a big question that is lingering in my mind as well. And all the younger stars who are trying their very best have been failing as well. They're not able to make people come out of their houses and enter the theater screens. How will it affect on the long run? Maruti, what do you think?
This will affect the industry for sure because see, no matter how much I spoke about audience and them not showing this interest, that is definitely there. That is the reason why me and Sanjay, when we in our review videos also, we try our level best to tell audience that, please come to theaters and watch movies. But in the longer run, the point is there'll be no stars or actors or the people who has that crowd. See, or Shivraj Kumar or all these stars, they actually grew up to that stature. They initially started giving movies, there's a certain amount of investment expectations that gives the quality, all of that's right. So now that thing is clearly missing. And also, if you look at how Shetty's blew up, also both Rakshit Rishabh and Rajbi Shetty, the cinema, the experience is different. So these younger actors also should pick those kind of movies. It goes hand in hand, right? Because if you don't give them enough content or make them feel that yeah, we should come and watch this movie, they will not. So it's not that people are not interested. The content or the choices of scripts or the movies that are in general being made, not able to create the interest which is giving that whole overall straight line to the industry where even if there is a good movie or somebody is talking about the movie also, this is what it will be. There is that kind of notion that I can clearly see among people. The people are not talking about movies. See, when people are talking about movies, there is some anticipation as when they'll come into the theater, right? So the production teams also should put more efforts in terms of creating conversations about cinema. Again, conversations is not fan wars or whose hero is big or not. There is a lot of interest in that angle. Yeah, yeah. Everywhere, everybody has their own hero. They are the bigger. But when it comes to theaters, that is not reflective.
Another thing to notice here is, since Bengaluru is the major city for Karnataka, which holds a lot of theater screens, but then there is a Bengaluru as a city, as a metropolitan city, has become very diverse. And then again, there is market for all languages. At the same time, the market for Kannada films is getting smaller and smaller. Is this something that will impact majorly? Because if you look at Hyderabad per se for Telugu films, there is a majority of Telugu audience there who would go and watch the films in theaters. Take Tamil, Chennai as the major city. Most of the people there are Tamilians and they will support their films as well. Is this a particular major reason for Kannada films to be struggling, since Bengaluru, the major market, being so diverse, and then most films and theaters not having that kind of either release and also the people who would want to come and watch? Janani, what is your take on this?
Not having enough release, does really affect a film in the longer run. But even for that, I mean, if you consider that or if you leave out that aspect, there is a strong section called OTT. For me, I never knew how Dia would be until it came on OTT, and people actually glued up to it. Even in our office, people in Chennai hardly knew how Yuvaratna would be. But then when it released on OTT, they were still glued to it. So not having this is a problem, but then if the content is good, it would actually pick up at least on OTT through word of mouth or through how much ever marketing you do. But not having that kind of leverage, is certainly worrying when it comes to the script level, is what I think.
Another thing to be picked up here is the marketing of the films, because a lot of these smaller films aren't really marketed enough. Like Maruti Acharya rightfully pointed out that, people aren't really talking about films, and that is where promotional activities kick in. It has been very traditional, to say the least, in the Kannada film fraternity, the kind of promotional approach they pick, especially since you're a smaller film. You need to have a very good promotional strategy just to make sure that everybody knows what this film is about. A good example that I'd like to bring in here is the promotional campaign of the film Hostel Hudugaru Bekagiddare. Right from the get-go, which released last year in 2023, two great reviews, did wonderful in the Kannada theaters, in Kannada, also got a release in Telugu and did fairly good there as well. The kind of promotional strategy they chose right from the get-go, from the first puja of the film to the way Puneet Rajkumar clapped and the way they used him in their promotional campaign, to everything they did right up till the release of the film. It was just beautiful, and you could see that if promotional activities are done right, the smallest of films can get the biggest reception from the Kannada audience. So, do you think that the promotional game of Kannada filmmakers need to step it up?
I think definitely there is more room for promotions because if dubbing movies with their kind of promotions, because we've been extensively covering, right? I know what kind of promotions the other movies are doing in Karnataka or Bangalore for that matter, but the buzz is still there. So it's not just about being visible, it's about creating curiosity. So in that aspect, there's a lot of scope. The Hostel Hudguru is a very good example that Sanjay brought in here, is because I want to know what this movie is about. That is one way that you go to watch a movie. So big star movies, right? So take Bhairati Ranagal or Max. The promotions of the movie, if you look at it, if I am somebody, I'm a Kannada audience, the movie released, I know, okay, there's a Sudeep movie in theaters, maybe over a weekend, I'll plan to go and watch it. The movie released, all that I know is people are liking it. Do you really think just the word that, all the public reactions, all of that, do you think that is enough for an audience to create curiosity? Absolutely not. The movie is good, the content is good, people are talking about it, all of it. But there is something more which would make me feel like I want to watch what is this? I want to know why they're like it. Hey Kantara, that's the reason, right? Oh, there is something in the movie why everybody is excited. I don't know what is that. Or the other way, with Hostel Guru, what they did. There is, I want to know what these people did. With when Shetty Films releases, right? The first question that comes to our mind is what they did. I want to see what they're doing this time. Even Saptasagar Dachiello, it is the most unconventional movie. Like somebody like Sanjay, we both went to watch it together, and I know what kind of movie Sanjay watch. That sad, little melodramatic, slow movies is not something that he prefers. But definitely that curiosity of, I want to know what they did. I don't know what is there in the movie. So it is very important for young filmmakers and promotional campaigns to understand that putting the movie is good or that is different from creating the curiosity. So there's a lot of scope in that direction and work that is needed according to me.
I would take, this Sudeep's film Max for that example. It is actually produced by a Tamil producer. But here, where I am in Chennai, but not many know that a Sudeep film has released also. And taking Kannada cinema as an example, like you don't need to go all out in promotions like how the Bollywood does. Even for that matter, Kangua is a Tamil film, but it was more promoted in Hindi because they gravitated towards the pan India approach. But it is those small videos or small, like a poster or some sort of small, on a smaller level, like you plan the campaign on a smaller level, because we do know that there are budget constraints, there are constraints in you reaching out to a larger audience without the backing of a solid producer or an OTT giant or anything. But your these smaller videos where you actually like pick the curiosity of the people, those work accordingly. So you, like any filmmaker for that matter, you can invest on those ideas that could actually convey the USP of your product, which would actually take Kannada cinema to people who are who don't know.
One of Kannada industry's biggest stars, arguably the biggest box office draw right until Yash became KGF's Rocky Bhai, was Darshan Togudipa, and his arrest took away a lot of attention, and it was more about what is happening in his case than what was happening in the theaters throughout the year. What do you think about this? Audiences investing more on the stars and what is happening in their personal life than the kind of films that is releasing in theaters. Janani, you tell me.
So it's actually very saddening for a Kannada cinema as a whole, because in 2022 and 23 as well, there were a lot of Kannada's films that actually went to a larger audience. And to see that 2024 was about Darshan and how his fans, invested on his personal life or how the controversy turned out, and not actually supporting the actual cinema that is coming out, it's quite saddening. And then, it just dampens the morale of the filmmakers in Kannada cinema.
Sanjay initially spoke about how Darshan films, or for that matter, late Mr. Puneet Rajkumar movies, they were crowd pullers. Okay. So, irrespective of whether the movie is good or not, is secondary. Audience, family audience, especially the major chunk which contributes to the revenue. The film buffs is this part in if you look at audience like this, okay. So this is film and this is family audience. So if family audience connect with a movie, right, the movie will commercially do well. So Puneet Rajkumar and Darshan's movies had that pull in terms of audience, and due to the situations that we are in right now, it is a little sad that that audience pull is definitely something which is missing, and the fact that they had that pull and nobody tried to capitalize or try to build it to that level, other younger bunch, is the fact that no, we don't have people who have that family audience pull.
Well, all in all, the year 23 and 24 has evidently been a little on the lower side for the Kannada film industry, and with hopes for a better 2025. It was very evident that, the how much the industry misses stars like Puneet Rajkumar or even stars like Yash when he's on his long extended break looking for the right script. How much, since the Shetties, the RRR of the Kannada film industry blew up, how much their lack of films in the theaters is also pointed out. Along with it, even when stars like Sudeep is missing from the theaters, when Darshan is in his, not able to give out films, to say the least about it, there is going to be a huge void that evidently is not being able to fill by the younger generation, because although the only person who showed any sort of promise this year is Yuva Rajkumar, who managed to bring a certain amount of crowd and a certain amount of box office. But then there is still a long way to go for him as well to get established. It remains to be seen whether Yuva Rajkumar could be a big star to come in the following years. Well, that is what has been happening in the Kannada film industries. We've spoken about all the industries in as much detail as possible. An elaborate discussion this certainly was, but it was also a very informative one. I hope a lot more directors get the limelight here. Speaking about Kannada industry, I'm really looking forward to another Hemant Rao film after Sapta. I'm looking forward to a Nartan delivering a mass, taking into consideration all the negatives from Bhairati Ranagal, because he also seems to be someone who is capable of delivering films or, you know, bring that mass aura like Prashant Neel did with KGF and Salar. I hope Prashant Neel returns to the Kannada industry soon as well. I understand what he is trying to say and all of it, but I hope he brings a little more Kannada content as well. With all those hopes, I hope all the other younger directors get their due, uh, and they break out into the scene with a lot more promising content with the smaller films as well. Because 2023 was a year for smaller films in Kannada. This year it wasn't that as well. So let's see what happens. Fingers crossed for 2025. Thank you for joining in and giving so much of your time, Maruti Acharya and Janani. With that, signing off for the year 2024, I am Sanjay Ponnappa for India Today.